flock of geese flying south. And then he gazed up at the trees of the forest and saw that the leaves had turned all yellow and brown and were falling from the branches. He knew that geese flying south and leaves falling from the trees meant that winter would soon be here and snow would cover the forest. It was time to go into a cave and hibernate. Not long after, in fact, it was a Wednesday. Men came, lots of men, with charts and maps and surveying instruments. And they charted and mapped and surveyed all over the place until finally they built a great, big, huge factory right over the sleeping bear's cave. The factory operated all through the cold winter. And then spring came again. Deep down beneath one of these busy factory buildings, the bear awoke. Off in the distance, he saw a light. Oh, that must be the entrance to the cave. And so he stood up sleepily and started up the stairs and out into the bright spring sunshine. Through half-open eyes, suddenly popped wide open. Where is the forest? Where's the grass? Where are the trees? Where are the flowers? What happened? Everything seemed so strange. He didn't know where he was. This must be a dream. And so he closed his eyes and pinched himself. And then he opened his eyes slowly, but everything was still there. Just then, a man walked through the door. Hey, you! Get back to work. I'll report you for not working. The bear said, Who? Me? I don't work here. I'm a bear. The foreman laughed and laughed and said, Well, that's a fine excuse to get out of working. Say he's a bear. You are not a bear. You're just a silly man who needs a shave, who's wearing a fur coat. But I am a bear. And so he took him to the general manager, who said, You're not a bear. You're just a silly man who needs a shave and is wearing a fur coat. But I am a bear. And so he took him to the third vice president, the second vice president, the first vice president, and finally to the president. And the bear said, But I am a bear. I've been a bear as long as I can remember. I've always been a bear. The president said, Not only are you a silly man who needs a shave and is wearing a where you are. You would be in a zoo or a circus. But I am a bear. And so the president drove them to the nearest zoo. And the president asked the zoo bears, "Is he a bear?" "No, he's not a bear. If he were a bear, he wouldn't be outside of the cage with you. He'd be inside of the cage with us." And so they put the bear to work at the factory on a big machine until finally the factory closed down. And all the men went home. Except for the bear, he had nowhere to go. He just stayed there in the forest. He gazed up at the sky and saw a flock of geese flying by. And then he saw that the leaves had turned all yellow and brown and were falling from the trees. And he knew that that meant that winter would be here soon. And that snow would cover the forest. I can't go into a cave. I'm not a bear. I'm just a silly man who needs a shave and is wearing a fur coat. He'd been told that so many times that he felt it must be true. And so he just stayed out there, freezing and shivering. He didn't know what to do. What would a man do if he were freezing to death? And so he went into the cave where it was cozy and warm. And he went to sleep. And he dreamed the kind of dreams bears have when they hibernate.